My name is Ricardo Rivera. I'm a Rhode Island resident, born and raised in Providence. Um, Nationally Dominican. I don't know if that's the correct term for it, but you get the gist. I probably didn't notice. I'm most likely traumatized in ways that I don't even know. So I live life based off of just what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with. So if you asked me where I got traumatized, I probably couldn't tell you. So honestly, life is pretty normal for me. I feel like my reactions and responses to different situations are all natural. I feel like that's exactly how me personally, I'm supposed to handle things. So challenges, I'd say I didn't really have any. It's at least society-wise, I don't feel like anybody's really giving me a hard time or made me think about how I'm living my life. Uh, I just go based off of how others are living their lives and maybe grab a little bit of something from everybody and try to make myself a melting pot of all those best and worst things that I've observed throughout my life.
So, compared to others, right, you would say you experience like less challenges?
Um, so I'd say I probably have, just maybe I haven't acknowledged them as like life-changing challenges or anything. Um, but sadly, I just couldn't give you an example of when I got challenged. Maybe there were hard points in my life where I needed to acknowledge some things that I might have had to change about myself. Otherwise, I don't think it was anything super dramatic or traumatizing. So,
Not even like a heartbreak or maybe like a relative that you lost that maybe like impacted you in some way?
sadly, I haven't been to a point where I've been too emotionally distraught about losing anybody. And if you want to ask me about heartbreak, um, basically, I feel like I put myself in all the situations where I've ever been hurt. Socially, I feel like there have been things that I missed out on from having strict parents. Um, Not being able to experience certain things at a younger age, whereas I'm experiencing them now, and as an adult, it's a little bit harder to, or maybe easier, I guess, because of my maturity. It's just, I guess it hits a lot harder since I'm older, and it's my first time experiencing certain things when it comes to situations I've been put in with relationships, not just with women, but with friends, work, and that's basically it.
And so, about your strict parents, can you expand more on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say protective. A lot of people would say strict based off of how I'm going to describe them, but I wasn't really allowed to, be socially active when it came to, going out, going to parties. It's more like just trying to understand like the social norms and what's right and what's wrong, before you embarrass yourself and make the wrong decisions when it comes to, making new relationships with people. I personally don't go out of my way to reach out because I feel like I'm such a bother. So that kind of affected how I reach out and talk to people and go out of my way to be the first guy to, ask somebody a question, ask somebody to hang out, ask somebody basically anything. I've always felt like a burden to people. As much as I've tried to help people, I've always felt like just an annoyance. So, um, having protective parents is good because maybe I've been saved from certain situations, but maybe I wasn't supposed to be.
So, I've heard from the past, I think from one of your siblings that your parents had like a divorce, right?
Yeah.
Did that impact you as like a child?
Um, I don't think my age really mattered. I feel like I would have seen it the same way if I was younger or older. Uh, just the way that it was handled between my mother and father, I feel like they had their problems on both sides. I feel like my father couldn't accept the person that my mother was, and my mother couldn't think that maybe she could have also bettered herself at the same time. I couldn't tell you which one would have been better for us in the long run, but it did affect how I saw my relationship at the time and just how I would be afraid of getting stuck in one, or maybe I would be afraid that I would make the same choices as my father. and I wouldn't be able to acknowledge the person that I was with and their differences, and I was afraid of hurting somebody a lot more if I had continued down that path rather than trying to find a new one and maybe seeing where that would lead.
Do you look up to your father?
In some ways, yeah. I really respect how he was always there for me and my siblings, no matter what the situation was or what kind of trouble we were in. He was always there, always on time. He always took us to places we needed to go, always there for when we needed to go to the hospital.
Other than your father, like, do you have maybe like any other role models that you look up to as of now or maybe in the past?
I don't have a role model, I just have acts of kindness that I acknowledge, and I try to put myself in the same kind of light, make sure that I'm checking myself and seeing if I'm doing the things that I need to do. And those acts of kindness can range from just someone being there for another person consistently, being a good friend. But I would never say that I would genuinely, or I don't have anybody that I genuinely look up to. I just acknowledge everybody for who they are and take the best from them and leave out the worst.
And so, like, how's your mental state right now?
Mental state?
Yeah.
I mean, if I wanted to be depressed, I probably could. I don't want to call it a choice, though, because I know there are people that might not agree with me. But all I know is that if you stay busy enough, that's easy to avoid. You know, just having your mind focused on a task, focused on a goal, and just not dwelling on the thing that's making you depressed. And if it's something that affects you or is like a big part of your life, that thing that's making you depressed, just find a way to fix it. You know, if you're lonely, go find somebody. If you're homeless, do the best you can and make opportunities for yourself wherever you can find them. Feel like you have a bad relationship with your family, try to fix it. Or maybe it's something that you really need to avoid. But there's always resolutions to every problem. And it's up to you to figure out what makes you most comfortable in each situation and how it's going to let you live your life in the long run the best way you can. I felt like there were times where I disappointed myself and I was really mad at myself. And there were times when I wanted to quit on certain things, but I just needed to take a day for myself, mentally at least. Physically, you should always be active, always, doing your responsibilities. Depression isn't an excuse to not take care of the things that you need to do in your own life. So depression-wise, I don't think so. Never. I just don't allow something that you would call a mental disorder affect my life. My life is been up and down just like everybody else's, but maybe there's some people that do a lot crazier things, or that people feel like whatever their action was required some acknowledgement. That's why we have famous people, or people who went out of their way to discover certain things, or just all kinds of people out there. But everybody has their traumatic moments and their hardships in their own ways, and it affects them more than others. But the things I wanted to quit was trying to make new relationships with people, thinking that maybe I was incapable of making more friends or having more relationships with people. I just there were points in my life where I felt like I needed to just leave all the social stuff alone. I felt like when I was a kid, I think all the friends and relationships that I had were already set in stone, and then I was just supposed to live my life, not make it anymore because of the ones that I ruined in my mind. Either making dumb decisions, saying stupid things, or just not reading the room. I always had a hard time with that, and I kind of blame that on my childhood.
Maybe like dumb decisions.
Dumb decisions, like I guess saying too much, maybe not saying enough. Let's say you sit and contemplate something that you want to do, and you think to yourself over and over again that you shouldn't do it, you really shouldn't do it. And then out of nowhere, the one time that your brain finds a way to explain that bad decision is now a good decision, you immediately do it. That's what I did. I always find a way to take that overthinking, making a better decision to not do it, and maybe finding a different solution to the situation I was in. And I feel like for whatever reason, I could always find a reason to do the wrong thing sometimes. So it's definitely been a little bit harder, but I've really tried to learn from all my mistakes and, never stop trying. As much as I wanted to quit doing it, I just continue to, and hopefully it gets better the next time.
What's your social circle?
My social circle, mainly just a woman that I've known for a long time that probably knows me better than most, and she probably comes either first or second on that list. I still haven't figured out which. And then just a lot of very close friends from high school that never went away. They always find a way to reel me back in, so because I've always had a problem with reaching out to others. So if they never reached out to me, it'd probably be really hard for me to reach out to them. But yeah, and then, at least they live around me. The rest of them have either gone on to do other things or, just decided to live different lives from me. So both mentally and physically. In my opinion, men should always try to keep their problems to themselves. If it's something that you can't handle by yourself, then reach out. But always reach out to people that you know for a fact will make sure they are there to support you. Don't think just because you're going to share your problems, there's always going to be a person that wants to help you, or there's going to be a person that sees what you're going through and wants to actually, support you in a proper way. Some people might dismiss you, and you'll get the wrong idea about people. So make sure whoever you're reaching out to, you really trust them. Taking on hardships without necessarily needing another person to support you, but it's always good to have a support group. And physically, I'd say just never get lazy. Get off the couch, try to be active. There's no better feeling than knowing that you're capable of doing things, running, jumping, lifting as much weight as you possibly could. I feel like physically you should be basically a monster in your own eyes, There's really nothing beneficial about sitting on your ass all day and doing nothing and, being obese, being too skinny. You should always find a way to be active and excel in some kind of physical sport or just any kind of physical movement, Just find something that you like: calisthenics, weightlifting, soccer, basketball. Be the best in that and try to make your body physically show it. Because I'll tell you this, if you don't start moving now, you're going to lose that movement a lot later in life, and you're going to wish you started moving when you could. Because those joints, those muscles, anything you don't use is going to disappear, and it's going to suck.